You're listening to The Pop by Dr. Shané, the Pursuit of Peace podcast, where I'm your host, Dr. Shané Petit of SP Consulting Group, where our mission is to bring your vision to life. Join us as we have various discussions that focus on purpose, vision, strategy, and transformation on this pursuit of peace in our daily lives. Hey there, it's Dr. Shané of SP Consulting Group, and I am your host of the Pop Podcast. The pursuit of peace in my crazy world. We are here again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is me. And today we're going to be talking about this month. Okay, first of all, it's April Fool's. Okay, everybody has been doing April Fool's. I wouldn't be surprised if some people out there are already prolonging every day and really milking some of the craziest April Fool's jokes. Well, today we're going to be talking about pushing beyond imposter syndrome and simultaneously our inner critic, right? Like we always say that our inner critic, we are our greatest motivation. We push ourselves. We sometimes are the hardest on ourselves. We challenge ourselves more than anybody else. At least that's the way I believe is a healthy way to go about it. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone. How about that? So when we're looking at imposter syndrome, I know that at the end of this month, just so that you guys know, on, let's see, what's the last Saturday in the month? April 24th, I'll be doing a webinar as it pertains to imposter syndrome. So be on the lookout. Check out my social media handles, at the SPC group. You can check it out. But either way, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome this month. We're going to be talking about it in different ways. Once you've identified you're battling with imposter syndrome, then what next, right? So today, April 9th, we are going to be talking about unlocking low self-esteem, low self-efficacy, and how to move beyond that boldly. How to move beyond it boldly. And I will give a disclaimer that I can't guarantee anything specific to anybody that I'm not working with. So if you're taking this, it's just advice. But if you really want to know, really want to dig into it, you're more than welcome to sign up for some coaching, wellness coaching, executive wellness coaching. I do all kinds of things like that in my private practice with SP Consulting Group. So check it out. Anyway, moving on. What is imposter syndrome? Generally speaking, without going into a technical, definition, imposter syndrome is when you absolutely have everything that you need to do a job, to perform in some area of your life, wherever it may be. Like I said, it may be work, in the community, at home, either way, in a relationship. But you have everything that you need, but you still doubt yourself. Say, for instance, you've gone to school, you've gotten certifications, you've done your due diligence with all the research and just that process of higher learning and really digging into it with a specialty and becoming an expert in any particular field. But yet when it's time for you to be called on to act, you begin to get a little, not just nervous, but you literally begin to hear yourself say, I can't do this for some reason or another. It may come from different places, but I will share my experience of imposter syndrome just to give you guys that example. And again, to see another piece of how I'm pursuing peace in my life, in the craziness, trying to find work-life balance. That's always the goal, right? So, imposter syndrome, according to harvardbusinessreview.org, imposter syndrome is just loosely defined as doubting your ability and feeling like a fraud, right? And like I said, it's not realistic. That I think is a big component to understand. It's not realistic. Now, if you didn't go to school, you didn't do any work, and then all of a sudden you want to show up as somebody's doctor, yeah, let's not do that, right? I hope that you at some point doubt your abilities if it's not something that you've studied, especially something like that. That's a very broad and irrational example, but some people have pretended to be doctors. Let's not talk about that. But some of the signs of imposter syndrome include self-doubt. We doubt ourselves. We don't believe that we are capable. Once again, it's an inability to realistically assess, your competence and skills. And you may be attributing your success to things that have nothing to do with it. Some of the things that come up for me in regards to imposter syndrome, I think even just my experience as a woman, being able to do a lot, to gain a lot, to change my perspective of my role in a family, finances, all of the nuances of, just being a woman. It gets to be exhausting when we get into this space. And I know I've battled with this a little bit. Say you climb the ladder, you reach past and you break through the glass ceiling, and maybe you have your own practice. Let me tell you, when I went into private practice, that is what I felt. I said, wait a minute. I may be a doctor, and I am a doctor. Am I supposed to be doing this? All of the, I'm not sure. Am I, second guessing yourself? Just that half finished sentence over and over again to basically get you in a place where you can't even trust your ability. You don't trust your knowledge. Okay. And one thing that you can think of that comes down to it of women, I'm in a room with, and this is a likely case and has happened often, where I'm the only African-American woman in the room. So not only am I the only person of color in the room, but I'm also the only other person that is female. Okay. And so we get to this place of people second guessing. And this is, again, externally that can trigger imposter syndrome, things that can trigger imposter syndrome, things that we've been told in the past. Okay. Because I don't want to necessarily talk about imposter syndrome in this swayed perspective of we're only thinking of this on our own. Yes, that may be the case in some situations, but when we're talking about imposter syndrome, I really believe it really affects at a disproportionate rate high achieving people. It disproportionately affects women, I believe. I believe it disproportionately affects people of color. And so again, coming from my perspective, I had to get to the place to recognize that I was dealing with imposter syndrome, like as a first things first, because otherwise it just looks like low self-esteem. You doubt yourself. It seems like the external symptoms of the issue, right? Like, okay, what happened and where did this come from? Okay, despite the many ways we think of ourselves being hardest on ourselves, I want to let you guys know what I did to really get a grip on my imposter syndrome, how to get a grip on that inner critic and really use it to in some ways, develop a little bit more grit about myself, okay? To move beyond what could be considered, like a cognitive distortion, just one of those negative thoughts, If I were to take myself outside of factors that are obvious to the naked eye, like, okay, I'm a woman, okay, I'm African American, I'm a person of color, Besides that, when I think about internally, yes, I am a high achiever. Yes, I'm a woman. I already listed the groups that are disproportionately high in this phenomenon of feeling like you're an imposter, right? So we have this push, and you've heard it over and over and over again. First of all, growing up being pushed to be productive, period. Whether it's get up, help out, clean around the house, clean in the yard, whatever it was get up and do something with your time. And then also taking that to the next level, it's whatever I was interested in order to really do what it is that I enjoy and I love. I had to push and I push and I push, the expectation there, not just from family and just family culture of how I was raised. You work hard, you sacrifice, you are okay with delayed gratification. Okay. So all of those things fueled me to push and push and push, but that didn't mean that I all of a sudden had a parallel connection between the work and then the outcome. Because guess what happened in between there? In between there, I was told from a very prejudiced and discriminatory emphasis, okay? I say emphasis, like it wasn't just an intention, but it was even pushed beyond the envelope where I was being told, numerous times by either white males or white females that I wasn't enough. I didn't belong. I am a pseudo intellectual. Yes, I was told that. I was a pseudo intellectual. And, in that moment, I'm just like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. And I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I get into this automatic, very much routine of telling myself to work harder, to work harder, to work harder. But ultimately, it was because there was a piece of, or lack of, confirmation that what I was doing mattered. That what I did was enough, even if I was pushing beyond that. So then being an African American woman in the workspace and, meetings that involve the C-suites, all of that, it was, I know that I'm prepared, but I still doubt myself. My inner critic was trained to really believe some of these narratives that were brought into my mind. And again, regardless of your experience, being able to get a grip of, okay, so this is what it is. Either someone has influenced me, said something specifically, it was my personal interpretation of ... There are many factors that go into imposter syndrome after this place of your inner critic entertaining some of the things that have been said, to where subconsciously you're at the point where yes, you tell yourself to sort of reel it in, or you put yourself into a box at times because of imposter syndrome. I mean, think about it. How many of you have passed up an opportunity to get a promotion? How many people have passed up an opportunity to, reestablish relationships? How many of you have been in that space where not only has your inner critic said it, but it's almost like your imposter syndrome then put a stamp of approval of, yes, that's exactly it. Yes, you may have X, Y, and Z, but it's not enough. Yes, you may have achieved, this doctorate, but it's still not enough. How can you reel it in and get a grip on it in an aggressive and intentional way and say, you know what, I'm moving boldly beyond this. I'm pushing forward regardless. I'm going to change the narrative in my own head, regardless of what people have said me to fuel the fire. I'm clearing all of it out. And I'm going to now tell myself what it is that I want. Talk about positive affirmations in there. How about, doing some reality testing? If it's something outside of your control, it's outside of your control. It has nothing to do with your competence. We are, depending on your experience, you may not be invited to some things. You may not be contacted for a hello or a, I love you and I miss you and I want you a part of my life. That may not be what happens outside of you, but it still has nothing to do with your ability to, for example, have a positive relationship with, someone that you wanted to have a relationship with, whether it was a long lost family member or a lost love you wanted to connect with and, state your claim, whatever it is. Being able to get a grip on imposter syndrome and your inner critic allows you to expand your quality of living. A lot of times we're in this space of, well, let me just push it to the point where I feel comfortable. And when it's uncomfortable, I'm going to, retreat and go back to baseline. No, in order to grow, in order to raise your threshold when it comes down to self-esteem, self-efficacy, what is my purpose in life? What am I doing? Sometimes you have to get a grip on that thing and say, you know what, regardless, I have the tools. And if I don't have the tools, I'm going to make sure I get them. I'm going to make sure to do something different this time. I'm going to make sure to respond to something differently. I am going to accept that promotion. I am going to go ahead and accept that transition in role. Yes, I am going to go ahead and start leading on purpose and living on purpose. I'm doing everything on purpose despite my inner critic, despite imposter syndrome, right? You have to push beyond something that you can actually identify with. And you have to identify with why do you have this message crossing your mind over and over again? Is it to protect yourself, to not feel those growing pains? How do we get in this space, right? And the only way to do it is to say, yes, this is imposter syndrome. I definitely have been anxious for no reason. Because the facts are, I am prepared. And if I wasn't, I know that I have the ingenuity, that I have the passion, that I have the strength, that I know within my innermost part of myself that is attached to my purpose, that this is it. And again, we're not just talking about big projects. This is major. This is a major discussion. This is a major topic of, moving beyond that space. But it's saying, you know what, regardless of what I look like, regardless of who I am, where I come from, this is what I am equipped to do. And I'm going to walk boldly beyond it. Don't be the fool. Don't be the fool that sits there and says, even though I'm equipped, I'm not sure I'm worth it. Why me? Whatever. Someone used to tell me that I was going to have issues. Yeah. And the rest of us do too. So what does that have to do with you moving beyond self-doubt, low self-esteem, your inner critic, your imposter syndrome, everything that is not for a reason, that is tangible? It's time to move forward. When you are in a space of, okay, I am really and truly moving forward in my life on purpose, I am attending to the needs in my personal and professional life. And that's for me to be balanced. That's for me to know that if I am equipped, I am ready. And if I am ready, I will become equipped. Either way, imposter syndrome, having this feeling that you aren't sure of yourself. Well, then figure it out for yourself until you're sure. It can lead to a place of exclusion, not because you were excluded, but you excluded yourself. And I want you to hear that. Sometimes this imposter syndrome can have you in this false belief pattern that you end up perpetuating what it is that you said you didn't want to have happen, which was, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to get this job. I'm not going to get this promotion. So I'm not even going to apply. Some of those things, I'm not even going to try to have this relationship with someone, even though they don't even know how I feel, those type deals. When it's all said and done, you can motivate yourself. You can get beyond your stuck points by spending a little time with yourself and understanding what you need, mind, body, and spirit, to reach a place of peace in this matter or another. There's also opportunities for leaders to realize that this is something that is, again, disproportionately happening with people of color, with women who are people of color, and all the other things that people may, talk down to, believe that, there's even something to argue about, differences and respect and honoring of skills and people's superpowers. We must create a culture where there's women and people of color are not only having the bias and racism addressed, but if you are intentionally creating a healthy work culture, again, this is specifically for those leading. If your culture is inclusive, if your work culture is equitable, lacking bias, lacking discriminatory acts, misdiagnosing people as having imposter syndrome, actually, but really seeing it for what it is and doing something about it. So when we come back again, we're going to be talking about the what next. How do you push beyond that? And I really do want you all to really get interactive, subscribe, save, put the little like so you can get the notifications when there's a new podcast episode. But feel free to send me questions. You guys know where to find me. I can be found anytime on my website, www.officialspconsultinggroup.com. Again, that's www.officialspconsultinggroup.com. Get on the Get Connected page. Send me your questions. How do I move beyond imposter syndrome? I think I have imposter syndrome, but I don't know. Or, hey, don't call it imposter syndrome. How about we look at some other situations that are happening that perpetuates this belief and confusion in my work culture, how I'm treated. And maybe I'd be able to walk boldly and have some space that is supported also within my work environment, within my home. How do I foster that psychological safety? How do I esteem those that are around me? How do they esteem me? How can we get to this place where we get a grip of it and we move beyond it, right? So it's April 9th, y'all. Tomorrow to be April 10th. Y'all have an amazing, amazing weekend. And I'll be back with you guys in 2 weeks on the 23rd with another episode of The Pop, where we are surely, continuously, never wavering on our pursuit of peace. Till next time, you guys take care, stay safe, and live intentionally. Bye-bye.